Hi, everybody. Hi, Dee. Good to
Hello.
see you.
Sorry, I was a minute late. I was actually just finished eating dinner. What is wrong with me eating at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah,
It's
that's
crazy.
interesting because I eat at like 5.
Oh, do you? Oh God, I can't. I can't get there.
Oh, that's all good. Hey, listen, before we start, I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're all meeting today. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just so everyone knows how the session is going to run, I'm going to ask Dee some questions, and Dee's going to respond by giving us some, just some fun little stories about her time as a referee and just some learning sort of things. Look, at the end, there's going to be plenty of time just to ask some questions of your own. So please just jot them down. If you've got any stories, if you've got things that you'd like Dee to comment on, please just hold them until the end. Dee, is there anything you'd like to say before you begin?
Well, I'm going to get tired of hearing my own voice. So I certainly hope that we're going to involve others. I want to hear about them too. So,
Okay,
and it's my honor to be here, guys. I love it. So
awesome.
thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay. Well, if at any time you want to pass it over or ask any questions of the participants in here, go ahead and do it, and we'll just play around you. Okay.
Very good.
Okay. So today, obviously, we're trying to get as many referees from all the pathways, like from right at the beginning to their careers to people who have been a FIBA, and more learnings and teachings around what you've experienced in your career for everyone, basically. So the first question is, what inspired you to become a referee?
Yeah. Poverty. Okay. Poverty. That would be it. Seriously, my senior year in college, I had absolutely no money. And a good friend of mine was a referee and said, "Kid, you know the game? Why don't you try it?" And I hope people on here can relate to this. From the moment I put that silly piece of plastic in my mouth, I loved it for whatever reason. So I just enjoyed it. But really, poverty was my motivation. I had no money.
And did you like the idea of, so obviously you liked basketball. Were you a
Yeah.
fan of basketball? And then what made you go into what made you decide to jump to being a referee other than poverty? Did you like the what referees,
Well, I
contribute
think
to the game?
I think most of us who played and who are now officials say, "God, I had to be better than half the officials I had." You just kind of go, "I know I can do this better." Um, I hope anyway, but that was a lot of motivation too. I mean, I always wanted to stay connected to the game. I love the game, and I am not Lauren Jackson by any means. There was no way I was ever going to be a player at that level. So I knew my avenue of staying with basketball was via officiating.
What is the most challenging call you've had to make in a game?
You know, I don't know that, I mean, we're talking probably like Sharon. How many years have you been refereeing, Sharon?
52.
Okay, so she's more than I. I deify you. I yield to you, but I'm 40 years now. The hardest call, the most challenging call, I think, is when you have a score that is tied at the end of the game. That's the most challenging call. It's like, do you have the courage to make the necessary call? Those are tough. So now, if you're talking like in a game, I still swear some of the most challenging calls are out of bounds calls. You think you see it clearly, and all of a sudden, we have our instant replay or monitor or whatever, and you just go, "Holy smokes, where'd that hand come from?" Or whatever. Everyone wants to talk about the block charge. I think out of bounds calls are tougher than block charges.
Yeah. And then before there was the video referee at the end of games and stuff,
Yes.
was there ever a moment where you had to go back and go, God, I made the wrong call? Like, have you had to deal with that? Like in those moments, in those really big moments of a game? Of course you have. Everyone has. I did too.
Everyone has. You shot the wrong shot. You missed the wrong shot. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone on this call with any level of experience knows when you make the wrong call. And you just know it. There are times you think you made the right call, and then you go back and look at the video and you go, oh, I wasn't right. But there are those moments, many of them, unfortunately, that you go, wow, I wish I had the skill. And if anyone here tonight can teach me, or tomorrow afternoon, as you guys are, can teach me how to suck the air back out of the whistle, I would forever be indebted. I really would. I mean, so many times you put air in the whistle and oh, geez, awful, just awful. So yes, we've had that experience. And unfortunately, I think I'm still going to have it because Sharon, I'm going to try to catch up to you. I'm not retiring just yet.
That's good to hear. So we've talked about rapport before and communication with the athletes and coaches. I guess how do you handle those moments of conflict on the court? Like when it can go either like tech, get out of here, or you just sort of talk them down off the ledge, so to speak. Like how do you handle those moments, and what is like the defining kind of factor for you?
Well, I think, and I know any kind of training with officiating, we do sessions on conflict resolution because it's an important part of this game. Unfortunately, we're going to have conflicts out there. Nobody loves us. You know, if you are looking to be loved, you are doing the wrong gig. You know, find something else to do because people are not going to love and adore you until they kind of figure out that you are a real person sometimes if you stay in it long enough, and that you really are trying not to screw them over, so to speak. But disagreements, conflicts, I think my first path is empathy. It's like I try to understand, like, why are they upset? And there are times they should be upset because, as we've discussed previously, there are times that you made the incorrect call. So going at it from an empathetic, standpoint is helpful. Now, when you try to diffuse and you use all those little tools that you have in the toolbox and they're still over the top and disrespectful, and that word disrespectful is a hot button for me. When people are disrespectful, then they will, be issued the warning and ultimately the technical foul or ejection or whatever the case may be. I haven't ejected that many people in 40 years.
I was ejected in under 12s, I think. I was ejected out of a stadium in the middle of Melbourne. My mum.
I don't really have a whole lot of problem believing that. I really don't. I mean, you matured as you got older, but like I said, the first time I met you, you were 17. So, I mean, I knew, you had that little edge to you. But see, I like players with edge, and I like coaches with a little edge because, sometimes, they're even more fun. That's one of the things I really enjoy about officiating is the psychological warfare. And I remember I had the opportunity to talk with Pat Summitt, who unfortunately has passed on, and I miss her tremendously. But when I was hired in the NBA, Pat was one of the first people to congratulate me. And I said, well, I appreciate the psychological warfare training you gave me. And she goes, was I that bad? I said, yes, you were that bad. I mean, I remember the first time I gave Pat a technical foul, I was 27 years old. And she's like, Kantner, you don't have it to make it to the big time. You can't handle the pressure. And I'm looking at her assistants going, get her, I will throw her. And in my head, I'm going, oh, please get her. I don't want to throw Pat Head Summit out of the game when I'm 27 before my career really starts. It's going to be over. But Pat was an artist at that, manipulation and psychological edge and the, and the steely stare and all those things. And once you figure that out, and, she wasn't that tough after all. Yeah, so that kind of stuff is fun for me. I really enjoy reading people, trying to figure out an angle. What's the best way? Because you don't communicate with people the same way. You don't communicate with everyone the same way. And that's part of the fun of officiating for me is reading people, trying to figure out what's the best way to approach them, what might work, what might not. So.
That's a great story. I have a vague memory of, just being so heated in a game, which probably all referees, Sharon would have seen it, but so heated with you as my ref as well. And I don't know, I was going berserk. I was going nuts. And you literally just engaged with me, but not like in a way that made me laugh, and then just completely diffused the situation. And then I walked off and then I think I loved you ever since. Like I honestly think that that was the moment for me with you where it was like, oh my God, she's great. Like if
Well, thank
you
you.
can actually do that with an athlete, particularly someone like me, gets so heated, and I was like, yep, sold. So just little
And
story.
that is, I mean, and like I said, part of it is understanding the frustration of the athlete. It's like,
Mm,
why, and be like, LJ, why are you frustrated? Why are you upset? Talk to me. Talk to me. Don't get cuckoo out here,
yeah.
you know. And I tell players that I said, let me handle it. Because if you choose to handle it, it's probably not going to work.
Mm,
Let me handle it.
yeah.
So,
So
and then I get into rapport with, some players, like when Brittany Griner was playing for Baylor, I said, Britt, if, because we're not always good, as you know, refereeing post players. We let post players, especially big players, just get beat up a little too much sometimes. We go, well, we get into the genetic angle of it. Like, well, they're big, they can handle the contact. Well, that's not fair. That's not fair sometimes. And so a lot of big players get frustrated because we let them get beat up too much. So she would say to me, and I go, whoa, before you, try to retaliate on your own, talk to me. And she would go, okay. And then there was a player on her team that was a little tough to communicate with. And she goes, and I'll handle that one. I said, thank you. So we had an agreement. You talk
funny.
to me, and then she would talk to that player for me because they didn't want to listen to me. So you learn those things. And I think that's where officials can become almost like favorites of players because, again, aligning with them, understanding them, convincing them you're not really out there in an adversarial position. You're there to help.
Yeah. What was the most memorable game you've officiated and why?
And thank you for these questions ahead of time. It's not that I'm that quick of mind all the time. I would say all the first. Not one in specific, but all the first. Your first NCAA Division I game, your first Final Four game, the first Olympic game, the first NBA game. All those first, kind of resonate with you. It's nice to have those kind of first, but those are the ones that I think are the most memorable. And then you try to, and Sharon, God bless you, 52 years. I'm not going there. I am not refereeing that many more years.
You
But
do.
I can't even imagine, there's just so many, they get all like messed up in there sometimes.
For
So I
sure.
do have my queen bee shirt on, guys. I'm a beekeeper, so it's not like I think I'm the queen bee. I am a beekeeper, so that's my queen bee shirt.
Lovely. Okay, so in the heat of a battle, in the heat of a game, how do you stay focused and make quick decisions? Like during, a really fast-paced game? Like, is there sort of a mindfulness that you have to sort of go through to like get yourself focused and prepared?
Well, I think just as you did before any game, you probably use mental visualization, all these types of things. I mean, I visualize before a game. I study all the players, what their tendencies are. So do some visualization before the game. What kind of plays, I'm anticipating. And then, when you have, the heat of the game, just staying focused, self-talk, anticipating, and a little bit of caffeine mixed in with that. It helps. And it's the only time I drink caffeine. It's the only time I drink caffeine is before a game. I'm not allowed to drink it any other time for everyone else's sake around me. But no, I think, all that, again, especially in intense games, just doing the panoramic view of what's happening, what you can anticipate is going to happen, and just staying focused. The ones that are tough are the games that are, 30 points apart, 40
Yeah.
points apart, that you don't lose your mindset. You do a lot of self-talking because, and it drives me nuts when officials are working in a 40-point game and they start cutting up. And it's a joke, it almost seems like a joke to the officials. Well, unfortunately, the team down by 40 doesn't think it's quite that funny. And we have to make sure we stay focused and, again, have that empathy. Because I remember, I was sitting in the stands as a supervisor of WNBA, and there was a coach that was down by 30, and my officials got all into themselves that they had so many double whistles, and finally one official gave it up to the other one, and they started joking with each other. And the team that was down by 30, the coach yelled out, "It's not funny." Misunderstanding. So you have to understand at all times how people could interpret or misinterpret what you're doing out there. We get lost in our own little microcosm of a world, and we have to make sure we stay connected to what's going on in the game.
Yeah. You talk about sort of anticipating the games as well and things that may or may not occur. Do you have a game plan going into certain games around like knowing certain players, knowing tendency of athletes and coaches and things like that? Do you sort of think about that before you go into a game and how you're going to respond to potential situations, things that might not
Absolutely. I mean, we know how before games, and you do some note, you've got plenty of notes, or you've got other plays that you've looked at from other games, and your personnel. Who are the more mercurial ones, let's put it that way, the more heated ones, who are the ones who are going to be disruptive, who are the ones who are going to be your go-to players, your voice of reason, knowing all of that. So yes, I definitely will study that, personalities, and also just what kind of style of play they're going to have, to anticipate what kind, one team is a running team, the other team is a defense team. Are they going to take charges? Are they going to flop? Are they a bunch of I remember when Gail Gessencourse, and she's not coaching anymore, but when she coached Duke, and in pregame, they would practice flops. I mean, as they're standing out there in warm-ups, we're standing there at mid-court as officials going, really?
Yeah,
really?
wow.
I mean, they would just practice flops. I even said to her one time, because, Gail and I got along exceptionally well. I said, Coach, you may not want to practice flops in front of us, because, you're not going to get the call, because we're looking at you going, really? So things like that. Yeah, we know that tendencies about teams and all those things. And don't practice flops in pregame. It's really
speaking of flopping,
you guys need to teach me about flopping, because the NCAA is going to start penalizing flopping, and FIBA's been doing it. So I need an education.
We the one thing during the WNBL season this year that I really it like the flopping, like it was so present, and like calling it, I feel like it's like an art actually knowing, what is a flop and what's not, particularly when you've got athletes that can really like fall at a,
Yeah. See, but what I don't understand, you help me. Why do you want, as a player, to win by cheating? I mean, I'm sorry. To me, that's akin to just cheating. Why don't you just win based on your ability versus trying to fool us?
Yeah.
And one year as supervisor of the W, I made fool the referee as a point of emphasis, because people were getting so good. And the players, and we know them too. The players who are so adept at fooling the referee. Yeah. And the head flop and the grunt before you even have contact and all that stuff. That's crazy to me. To me, it just seems like it's cheating to win, and it drives me nuts.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Did you practice flopping?
Oh, I'm too big to flop. Like it hurts. And I'm too old as well, but it actually hurts going down that far for me.
I know. I see players go down and I go, "Oh God, I'd be laying on the floor. I'd still be laying there." Are you kidding?
Too painful for me. What do you think are the most important qualities for a referee to have?
Oh gosh. I don't know. It'd be interesting. For me, I think keeping a sense of humor at all times is important. I really do. You cannot take yourself too seriously. You have to have, obviously, anytime you have to have a good sense of self and a good, strong ego to be out there as a referee, because you're going to hear it from all sides all the time. No matter what call you make, somebody's not going to be happy. So you obviously have to have a good, a pretty strong ego and a good sense of self. But if you lose your sense of humor and you really think this game is about you, then you're not going to survive, and you're not going to be successful. People will find out that's your impetus, and you will not be successful. So, you just can't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
There's a lot of funny things that go on a basketball court. If you can find the humor and still survive, and obviously you've got to be an excellent play caller to be successful. Number one, if you can't call plays. But right behind that, and I think I've said this to you before, LJ, is that right behind it is how well can you communicate? Because so many coaches are just, and I found it astounding when I was supervising the W that there were more coaches worried about officials that would not talk to them than they did about missed calls. It really was intriguing to me because, a coach is relenting and relinquishing their control and power to a referee, which they hate. And if the referee's not going to talk to them, now they hate it even more. So if you can communicate with the coach and with players, lend an ear, and at least, let them know that they will be playing in as fair an environment as possible, it puts them at ease. So I think being a good communicator, keeping a good, good sense of self and a good sense of humor. Those are my 3 qualities. I know you asked me for one, but I just don't think you can have one most important. So I cheated. I gave you 3.
That's all good. All good.
Okay.
How do you keep up with the latest rule changes across all the different governing bodies that you're?
Unfortunately, anymore, I only have to do one anymore. I have whittled my career down to one set of rules, the NCAA. And in my youth, I did, of course, FIBA, WNBA, and NCAA all at one time. And I really didn't have a problem separating them.
Yeah.
I didn't, because now there are very few rules that are a whole lot different. And that's one of the objectives of the world being, is to just have one set of rules and have some consistency among them. But if that's what you want to do, you have to understand. And I always say to officials, control the things you can control. And knowing the rules, no matter what world you're in, and I had to work when I went from US to Australia and did FIBA this is free throws. Why the hell am I doing this signal? This makes no sense to me. We didn't do that in the NCAA. The first time I had to do that, I was like, I didn't do it. What is this? So, but you can't, I had to make sure I wasn't like doing it disdainfully. So let's not put on that, US is better than NCAA rules are better than FIBA, or WNBA or pro rules are better than FIBA. So, but I think with Carl Jungenbrand at the helm of FIBA, he loves the NBA and the pro game. I think there's a whole lot more consistency among all bodies. But if you're going to work them, commit yourself to knowing them. You have to control that. That's something you can control.
Yeah. I guess so I haven't given you this question. This is just me.
I was going to say, is this on my notes?
No.
They're on my notes.
Sorry. So one thing that I have noticed about FIBA, and I'm sure, you have and everyone has probably, when we go into like world tournaments and things like that, the difference in the refereeing styles, like different countries, levels of physicality, like it's very clear, like in the way that games are officiated, that there's like, there is a difference. How is that sort of monitored? And I guess what the word is probably, how do you combat that difference in styles?
Well, I think a lot of it just goes right back to what kind of styles are they used to refereeing. I remember, gosh, which world tournament was it? 98 in Germany. I had the opportunity to work with an official from Senegal. I mean, he was the most delightful man I've ever refereed with. Had the best time on the court. Didn't know a damn thing of how to referee, though. Had no clue. But he was lovely. He was just enjoying. But again, what kind of basketball did he see? And you can't hold him responsible for refereeing. I mean, we even have it in the States here. It's like the West plays West Coast plays this style, Big Ten plays this style, the SEC plays this style, the AC. So just even officials from the Pac-12 referee differently than officials from the SEC. Because the SEC is a run and gun, very athletic, how quickly can get up the court, with incredible athleticism. The Big Ten is more of a grind type of physical game, a lot of post play. So it's very difficult when you have officials who have not had the experience of refereeing your upper echelon athlete, that you expect them to see them for the first time and know what, you know, what a
Yeah.
physical, what a illegal contact is, and what, I think that the biggest issue, and help me out with this, is that most officials who have not experienced an upper echelon of athlete don't allow the contact. They don't allow you to play. They don't, the whistle is a lot tighter because, girls can't handle that kind of contact. Yeah.
How do you like help them on the court as like sort of like a experienced referee?
That's difficult. First of all, they want to be helped. I was like, that's your first barrier. Do they want to be helped? And I know when I was in FIBA, there really weren't that many women officiating, and Sharon can speak to this too. So there weren't a lot of men that were going to listen to women giving them advice. That wasn't our purpose in their eyes. Was it, Sharon?
No. That didn't work very well, did it?
No, not at all. So, finally, like when I did the Olympics in 2000, like a lot of the guys knew that I was working in the NBA. So you get some level of respect there. But even then, they still don't want to listen to women. Yeah. So we're still fighting that.
We are.
It is look at that. I mean, come on. Yeah, you're fighting it. We all still do.
Yep.
It's better, but it's not where it needs to be.
For sure. I would agree with that.
And no disrespect to Matthew or anybody else who's on here. It is what it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to someone who wants to become a referee?
First, I want to ask them why they want to become a referee. Like, what is, what's the reason they want to become a referee? Is, and again, I'm going to refer to Sharon too. I mean, when we started officiating, it wasn't like you were going to make a living in officiating, other than if you went, in my case, other than if you went to the NBA, where it was a full-time salary. When I first started refereeing women's college basketball in 1984, I got a $70 check. I was not going to live on that. I mean, I went to school for engineering. I was working at Westinghouse as an engineer. That was my, that was my career. Officiating was avocational. It is now, I mean, obviously in the States, in college, it's very much a vocational pursuit now. Now, there are a whole lot of people who want to be referees, a whole lot more than did when we got $70 a game. Now that some of our upper, in my upper tier games now, I mean, I think next year we're going to get $4,000 a game. So now, oh yeah, I want to be a referee. And people want to come in and they think they're going to come in the first year and get my schedule with my pay. We have a whole lot of people at camp now who just think you're going to show up and make that kind of money. That doesn't happen. So if that's your impetus is because you think you can make a living out of it, I don't know. I still believe in the purity of heart. Is it a game you love? Is it a game you want to service? Is it a game that you want to stay involved with and make it, without sounding too altruistic, the best environment for the best team to win? So I think when people ask, like, why do I think I was successful? It's not because I thought, I'm that much better of an official. I just really believe that karma gets rewarded. I'm really out there because I love being out there and servicing the game and trying to do the best job I can that, the best team wins and people aren't screwed over. There it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Love it. Love it. Servicing the game. I think that's beautiful because I think that's why all of us, particularly what I do, what Shaz has been doing, what we've all done for so long is just because we purely love the game, So
absolutely.
I love it.
I mean, you think about, where would you be without the game of basketball?
Not here. That's for sure.
Exactly. And I think back, one of the most influential people in my life to this day is my high school basketball coach. Where would I be without her leadership and her mentorship, I wouldn't be here either. So it's a game that vis-a-vis her, I owe an incredible debt to. So no matter how many games I get, like pretty good play calling and people like this and whatever, I still owe it a debt that I'll never be able to repay. So I just think that's how I ended up in basketball.
Yeah, awesome.
I should have skipped engineering school. It would have been a whole lot easier. What the hell was I, you know?
It's like doing things the hard way.
Mm.
How do you handle pressure from the crowd and fans during a game when like, you know what it's like when crowds are going berserk and
Who cares? Yeah, you get to the point where the crowd doesn't matter whatsoever. No, I do not take my self-worth from the crowd. LJ, did you freeze on me? Are you there? Am I here?
Yeah.
You can, Sarah, you can hear me. Okay. Oh, you froze on me. You're back now. No, you get to the point where, I mean, you'll still hear the crowd and, you know, there's always some voice that just is piercing and you hear every word they say and they're obnoxious and they're nasty and they're personal and they say things to you that you didn't think another human being could possibly say to you. Yeah, because I find it remarkable how inhumane people can be as fans. You know, it just really is ridiculous. But, you know, when you're in that arena and you know what your goal is and what your job is, they don't matter. I don't take my self-worth from them. Now, if somebody is incredibly disrespectful and whatever, I will get game management and get rid of them.
Yeah,
you know, it's the way it is. But by and large, a lot of times, I mean, to this point in my career, I mean, when I do, you know, there are some arenas that I know the fans. I'll walk in and I know all the people who are top dollar people on the bottom row, you know, and they're all drinking. They're like, hey, Dee, you want to drink? I said, maybe not right now. You know, probably that wouldn't look good. And we joke and yeah, they're going to harass me and whatnot. But again, sense of humor. I have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
You know, I diffuse them that way.
Have you had any, like, do you have any stories of like someone really bad, like a fan or a parent or like from any like part of your career?
Oh, I've almost been hit a few times. Are you kidding? Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's been, you know, there was the Uruguayan coach first time. I think I was the first woman they put on a Pan Am game. So men's game, Pan Am men's game. And I had Uruguay versus Puerto Rico. And the Uruguayan coach was really a pill. I mean, I waited, very first call I made was so incredibly obvious because I knew he was not keen on having a woman official. It was so obvious, and I looked, and he was grabbing himself. Yes. In the States, easy. Gone. I'd throw him. But I can't because it's the first time a woman's on a game, so I throw him on the first call to be like, see, women can't handle it. Threw the coach out on the first play. Well, by halftime, I had had enough. He had been persistent. I finally teed him, and he walked right at me like he was going to hit me. You know, he's back like he was, and I just stood there like, go ahead. Like, whatever you have, I will own. Hit me. But Winnipeg police came onto the court and intervened. And the first police, first police person on the floor was about 6'3" and a woman. I was, oh, buddy, your worst nightmare just came true. But so yeah, I had a police escort after that game. I mean, by the end of the game, the entire Winnipeg police force was lined up around the court because it was, you want to talk fans, they were crazy. The coach was crazy. Everybody was crazy. And I needed to grab a hold of a belt and get off that floor before I got killed.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you cope with that, like after the game, like when you go home, like how do you sort of deal with like coming, because I imagine you would be quite sort of like, well, I know how I would feel. I would be quite worked up and upset about it.
Oh, I was upset about it, but at the same time, I also understood the source of their frustration. You know, I'm surrounded by a tremendous support group. So like you talk to the people that matter, and you have to have people in your life who understand what you do, because officiating is a crazy vocation or avocation. It really is. so you've got to have some people in your life who get it and understand the pressures and understand the craziness and the abuse and all that. And, those are the ones that matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, and ironically, I ended up on a plane the next day with the Uruguayan team. And they all got on the plane and they're like, good job. And I was like, yeah, no, keep going. Are you kidding me? Said, are you serious? I just looked at it. I didn't do that. I wanted to. That's my East Coast coming out. But no, I didn't do it. But I wanted to. I just looked at him like, just go. I had nothing to say to him. No, it was a challenging game. And, but again, I still remember the ball went out of bounds towards the end of the game. And it went to a policeman who had been lined up around the court. And he got the ball and he threw it back to me. And I said, thanks for the ball. And I said, good to see you here. I mean, again, my humor just kept me through it. I was like, I'm going to need you because these people are going to kill me.
Yeah.
And I had a coach one time in the States who went to hit me. And I threw him out. Tournament in the Bahamas. And I remember Sue Gunner, it was LSU. And this guy was coaching Oklahoma at the time, I think. He was just a tool. And he got all fired up and I teed him and he went to hit me. Fortunately, my partner, my officiating partner was about a 6'4" beastly man who came in, and one of my dearest friends. He came in and got him away. And Sue Gunner, who was coaching LSU at the time, who was also unfortunately passed on. God bless you, Sue, who actually thought my real name was Goddammit Dee. That's all I ever heard from her anyway. Sue was fabulous, but to Sue's dying day, she thought that was the funniest thing she ever saw when the coach almost hit me. I'm like, thanks, coach. Again, you have to keep it in perspective. It's like people, you just deal with it. It's part of the game, and keep your sense of humor. And like I said, you have the people around you that matter, and those people just don't matter.
Yeah.
How do you deal with people yelling at you as a player? Yeah.
I'm so focused.
You don't even hear it?
I never hear it. No.
Oh, I hear it all.
Yeah.
I think, I think I'm like ADHD, so I hear everything. I am aware of everything. I just choose to ignore most of it.
Yeah. Wow. That's full on. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm the sort of person that, I just zone in and focus on what I have to. But
You should have made you a referee. What are we talking about? You should have been a referee.
I should have. Well, you know what? I did actually referee locally here in Albury when I was a kid. So it was definitely something that I was into as a youngster. What do you, and this is my last question, so everyone else please get your questions ready for Dee after this, but my last question is, what do you think the biggest misconception people have about basketball referees is?
That we care who wins.
Yeah.
We care who scores points. We care, we have star treatment. We have no. I mean, let's be honest. You're playing in a game, you're Lauren Jackson, and you're playing in a game, and I'm going to be fully aware of the fouls I call on Lauren Jackson because they're high impact fouls. That doesn't mean if Lauren Jackson fouls, I don't call it, but it means that I'm definitely going to make sure that if I call a foul on you, it's a legitimate foul because it has more impact. But people think that we really care who wins, or that we're going to, I love this. They have 7 fouls, we have 1, or, we have 7 fouls, they have 1. So what are you telling me?
Yeah.
That I'm calling for them? Anything that questions my integrity drives me nuts. You have a team that's shooting threes who doesn't foul because they're playing completely perimeter zone defense or whatever, and the other one's playing man-to-man. It's like, no, the fouls aren't going to be even.
Right.
Yeah. But the other thing is that people really think that I care who wins. I don't care who wins at all. I care that we get the plays right. Yeah. So that's the biggest misconception, in my opinion, that, that people have of us, and they just, people don't get, I mean, they don't understand. We have roles to play as officials sometimes. That's not who we are as people all the time. I mean, you have to have a little bit of chutzpah out there. So people get to know me and they're, wow, you're really nice. I said, what do you think I am? And I'm like, well, you don't always come off as nice on the floor. I said, well, I can't always come off as nice. You guys would kill me if I came off as nice all the time. There are situations in which you can't always be nice, but they set the stage. We have things to manage. But as far as like, we care who wins or we're favorites or, that stuff drives me nuts. Anything that questions my integrity.
Great. Well, thank you. I guess now, I mean, if you can jump onto your video screens, participants.
Let me see some folks.
We're open to.
I see Sarah. Hi, Sarah. And Sharon's there.
We need to, I think a lot of people are probably still at work as well, which makes it hard.
That's true.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Kylie, I remember you from before. How are you?
So does anyone have questions for Dee? Just come off and speak up.
I just have one question. So I'm a referee coach, which I think is what you call a supervisor over there who evaluates the games. So I'm wondering if you had any advice for anyone who's doing that sort of work in how to engage with referees.
Well, Sarah, what do you find? I mean, I supervised for about 17 years in total. I did about 15 of the W and 2 years in the SEC. What are you finding issues as far as relatability, or what kind of issues are you encountering?
Probably just having, for me personally, I'm starting to work in the national leagues in the men's. So for me, I think it's just more having confidence in myself. I'm the only female on the panel. So that's referees or referee coaches at the moment. So I think that for me is probably something I have to work on. But I just thought in general, what advice you'd have?
Just, you're going to have to work twice as hard. That's it. Number one, which you'll have no trouble doing, but you've got to believe in yourself, because if they sense lack of confidence, they're going to kill you. They're going after you. Sorry. I'm going to be honest with you. So yeah, absolutely. Go in there, study twice as hard, be twice as prepared, which is easy for us to do. And you can do it. But yeah, don't let them see that there's any lack of confidence at all, or else they'll find that little chink in the armor. But you'll be great. And if you have issues, ask Lauren. We'll get it. We'll go. I'll help you through it. I'll help you through it.
Any more questions for Dee? Surely
Hey,
we've got.
Sam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I actually have a question. Who's your favorite coach to referee?
I can't answer that.
You have a most difficult coach that you've had to referee?
Of course, I have that too. It's so funny because I like the difficult coaches. We have coaches here that have reputations as being the most difficult, and those are the ones I really enjoy, because they're the ones that challenge you the most. So to me, that's the fun in figuring out, how do I get them to be less challenging? We have a coach here who thinks he is the smartest person in the free world. And like the first couple of times I worked for him, he was really condescending. And I finally just got to the point and said, this is not going to work. I mean, I know you think you're a Mensa candidate, or you're in Mensa and you just are like the smartest person in the free world. However, communicating with me in a condescending manner is not going to be effective. And if you want to match wits, I assure you, I can do it with you. So do not talk down to me. And ever since then, he was like, I got you. So those are the ones you figure out. And that worked for me. And it may not work for somebody else. But I like the difficult coaches. And you've seen, some of the games in the States who are interesting coaches are. I mean, everyone talks about Kim Mulkey's outfits. So come on, Yeah. Like, and I had Kim. What are they?
Can we just talk about her for 1 second? Because I do have a question about how she was referee, I officiated during the Final Four in that that LSU Iowa game. She was running on the court during the game, like, and running up to referees and like almost out to half court. Where's the leeway? Like, who allows that?
It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been allowed at all. But the thing is, again, the first time when I came back from the NBA and I came back to the women's game, Kim was coaching at Baylor. And I remember the first time they sent me to Baylor. And I had never refereed Kim. But I remember, and I didn't want to come in like, guns a-blazing. So I had that first game and I'm like, what in the world? I got on the phone to the supervisor. I called Sarah after the game and I go, Sarah, what the hell has Kim been allowed to get away with? Because I said, I called the supervisor. I said, I don't know what you're allowing this coach to do, but I just witnessed something that, I don't want to come in the first time and just start assessing technical fouls. However, this is behavior I think is unacceptable. And the supervisor said, you're right. We haven't handled her very well. Well, then the next time I had her, apparently there was an ensuing conversation with her because I came on the floor and she goes, oh, gotta behave, big dogs in town. And I was like, I said, okay. I said, yes. So she knows what she can get away with whom, as many of you coaches will. So, yeah. I refed her in the regional championship. I had LSU in the regional championship and she started getting active. And I grabbed a hold of her arm. I said, Kim, you have got to stay in this box. And she went, I know, buddy. I know. I got you, but I don't know what your partner's doing. I said, don't worry about that. And she goes, well, where's he from? I said, don't worry about that. She goes, all anybody wants to talk about are my clothes. And I said, well, they are special. They are special. You got to admit. So again, I diffuse her differently, but I have, as Sharon can speak, when you're out on the floor that many years, you get a little different kind of respect sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I don't have the issues with it, but no, she was out of control in the national championship game. They didn't handle her well. And that is trust me, is going to be addressed, I'm sure, in the fall in our regional clinics. Yeah, without a doubt.
And then I just have one more question with that as well, like athletes and coaches, like the physicality. So like if they come to approach you and they touch you or they grab your arm or whatever, is that because you see it in the WNBA, you see certain athletes go up and touch referees when they're trying to get a point across or whatever. Like how is that like to try and communicate with them? How do you deal with that?
Slippery slope. That's a slippery slope. You've got to be really careful with any contact with an official. And, if a player is talking to me and just kind of puts their hand on my arm or something, that's one thing. And I'll be like, okay, but to like wrap the arm around me or whatever, it's like, don't do that. You kind of step back and go, guys, this doesn't look good. You cannot allow that because now you're giving, and everyone's watching. If you think, you're having this one-on-one conversation, no, the opposing coach is looking down going, their star players allowed to wrap the arm around the official and this and that. We've seen it too much. So you've got to be really careful allowing any kind of physical contact.
Yeah.
Don't do it either way. Like you don't do it to them. They don't do it to you. It just keeps it professional. Everyone thinks everyone's being treated equally. So that's the best way. Kylie has a question. She came off mute.
I did. Well, I was actually, it wasn't to you, Dee. Actually, it was to LJ. And I suppose.
Ask LJ. I want to hear it because I'm tired of me.
It was a reverse question, I suppose, and how you would take a referee coming up and like touching you on your back or your arm. I suppose, how would you receive that in certain circumstances if we were trying to get your attention to communicate with you? And I suppose you could sort of answer that from a player's, because every player is going to be different. But I suppose for you personally, how do you like to be engaged from a referee?
We sort of talked about it before, that rapport part. I think that's a really important piece. And I think as an athlete, like when you the biggest, I think, part of like that referee athlete relationship is respect, right? Like you got to respect people and you got to trust them, and there's got to be that level of trust. I think if I've known a referee for a long time, like when I talked about Dee, how she's sort of diffused me, and she's been able to do that on many occasions. Sharon actually was like that too when I was younger in the WNBL. Like I feel like we just built up a relationship over years that when she knew she was going to tech me, she'd come up to me and say, Lauren, I'm going to tech you. Like you like settle down or talk to me, or like it wasn't. So I'm happy, like I've got no problem with that, but it's sort of those relationships are built up over years. So I think, and sometimes it is actually just one conversation with a referee during one of those really heated moments, and that empathy piece, if you can figure out how to diffuse the athlete, then you might have a relationship with them, like just that respect, trust relationship for the rest of, their career on the. So it's like it sometimes is just one moment, and there's so many opportunities, particularly in the WNBL and national leagues and things like that, to have that moment. But I think it's actually when that moment happens, is actually taking advantage of it. And I know it's hard to articulate, but I feel like from an athlete perspective, that's when I know I can trust the referee, and the referee can, like trust me or respect me or whatever, like then that's the moment. Then that's when they have that control and they can, like, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
What about any physical contact from an official?
Yeah, I do. Again, I'm responsive to that. I think just as a human, if I have that level of respect and trust with that referee and they sort of touch me on the arm to settle me down or whatever, I've got no problem with that. But if it was someone that I've been battling with, and like some of the referees that, we've had in the WNBL or whatever, you just can't get in any flow with them. If they approach me and touch me, I'd be like, yo. So it's understanding your audience, right? It's really,
again, reading the people, what's going to work, what's not.
Sorry, that was a bit full on.
No, I like it, but what I don't like as an official is, there could be some rapport between official and players that could be physical, but if an official is communicating with a coach and they have their arm around him, oh God, no, it doesn't look good. It really doesn't look good. There might be sometimes that, there are times I've gone up like it's a 3 and the player runs by me and high fives me. I'm like, really? I said, don't do that. They've done that because they know they know I have a sense of humor. I look at them and go, don't do that, but I laugh. Like, don't be a dick. Don't do that. But when I've seen, and you've seen it, these officials who try to endear themselves, and all of a sudden they're over there with their arm around a coach to try to ingratiate themselves. And that's how they want to get their schedules, because the coach has, oh God, that's maddening to me. Or I give a technical foul. How about this, guys? You've given a technical foul and your partner then walks over to the coach and starts chatting with him. The good cop, bad cop thing. I had a friend of mine, and I love her dearly. She's never done international ball, but she's funny. And she was working with, we know this one official who's always going to be the good cop. So she gave a technical foul to coach, and she looked at me and said, don't you go over there. And it was like, perfect, because she knew it. She goes, don't you go over there, right? And, she's from Jersey. She can't help herself. The word comes out easily. And it was just like, but beat him to it, because he was going to be on his way over there to go, I got it. I'll handle it. Oh, that's maddening. Don't, if I've given a technical foul, I do not want to see you over there chit-chatting with the coach then. That's the worst. What else? I like the questions for LJ.
No, well, look, we've got enough time probably for one more question. So
was that it? Gosh.
Yeah, it was a quick hour, but we will put this up on the it'll be up on the platform so that people can go back and watch it. It's just such a great resource to have, and to have someone like Dee come and speak to us is just, incredible.
I think mine was mostly around like the mentoring and stuff. Like, how do you get across to like because I'm in charge of a junior officials program. So getting your point across about, it's not all about money. There actually is a pathway there, and actually getting them to want to try and start getting on the pathway. That's probably my question.
Well, I think, Chloe, the best thing you can do is just convince them how much fun it really is. I mean, it really, if they love the game, I think we're having difficulty in the States here getting people to work the youth levels, because our parents are crazy, we've got so much abuse here. We have people fighting, like going to punch officials at youth games because, they missed a call and that just cost their son, their scholarship to D1 game. D1 university. It's crazy. But that's why we're having difficulty with keeping people involved in the lower levels of officiating. But, everyone always wants to focus on the negativity of officiating. People yell at you, but I think if we focus on how much fun it really is, how positive it is, you can stay in shape, you get paid to stay in shape, no matter what it is. And, the mentoring aspect, I think you find the hook for what's going to instill excitement in them.
Dee, it's 1 o'clock. Thank you so much for your time. Again, you've just been incredible, and someone with your experience being able to share your stories and your insight is so important for our referees here in Australia. So thank you again so much.
Well, I appreciate seeing everyone. Thank you. And we all obviously share this love of officiating for whatever reason it may be, whether you're supervising, whether you're actually still doing it, whatever the case may be. So I appreciate my brethren and sisters from down under. So thank you so much. I enjoy spending time with you.